mean, your whole lives, and you look forward to doing that for an eternity, welcome to heaven. Enjoy. Now, why does God have to create, like you said, all these beings where God knows these people are not going to have faith, these are going to be like atheists or avid atheists and, rabid, let's say, even really mad about it and run around the world yelling at everybody, and going to hell. Why even do that? How about, why is that not a better universe to just say, heaven, there it is, everybody enjoy yourselves. That's it.
I think Hitler is a great example of people who were born to cause a lot of suffering, and why wouldn't an omnipotent God allow for that? I mean, that's a perfect example.
I think we're often attacking the second one, the omnibenevolent one, if he's all good, rather than all powerful.
Well, and all powerful, it goes back to, so God can create whatever God wants.
But we keep attacking, if he's all powerful, he can prevent this and prevent this and prevent this. But we're sort of straying away what he actually is. Is he all good? If he's all powerful and he can prevent it, but he chooses not to, then he's not good.
Right.
So is he omnibenevolent, not all powerful?
Yeah. One thing the critics say. You might say the advocates of the problem of evil, they think it is really a problem and that God, you might say, can't get away from it or that nobody can really defend it, is to pick any one of the top three here and just remove any one of those and there's no problem as well.
To address the second issue, I think you mentioned about why didn't God create just a perfect world or heaven? I think Leibniz says it's because he would have to make a God or perfect, but that's impossible because only God can be perfect. So there has to be metaphysical evil or imperfection. So that evil is just imperfection. So.
He also says this too. Let me add to this. He says it is true. This is right after Leibniz has said that God's the best being, so God creates the best. Right after that, he says it is true that one may imagine possible worlds without sin and without unhappiness. Before I go on. Is that not heaven? I mean,
that's pretty good.
Is there supposed to be sin in heaven? Is there supposed to be unhappiness? I don't think so.
I think that'd be kind of boring.
I'm not presuming to have any idea what heaven really is, but because we had a session on that, we were like, well, we can go now.
Let's see. But of course, when Leibniz says you can imagine, he doesn't really mean you can imagine in the sense that it's logically possible, because of course.
But yeah, I get what you're saying. So then he goes on though, and one could make some such utopian romances, these ideal worlds. But these same worlds again would be very inferior to ours in goodness. And then he goes on to say, well, you can't know goodness without evil. You can't know how much you appreciate health if you're not sick, or at least if everybody around you isn't sick a bunch. So you can go, wow, I'm not them, so this is cool. So that leads to the question, would there be monthly tours of hell when you're in heaven? I'm sure that you would forget. Or just an Earth viewer. Libya, Japan. Thanks, God. Happy to be here.
But, I mean, isn't this to some degree underselling omniscience? I mean, to a pretty large degree, in the sense that it's underselling omniscience because, well, you look at John Stuart Mill. John Stuart Mill says, well, there are actually different types of pleasure and different types of good, right? And there are individuals that can't tell the difference. So couldn't it just be an us epistemic problem that we're calling all this stuff evil and
right,
and that we just don't have all the facts?
Right.
I mean, that seems to be at least a major objection to even that there's a problem, right? I mean, that when you're 12 and you get grounded, you think life stinks.
My parents on Facebook.
I mean, but you think about it later, and it ends up being either a qualified good or an unqualified good.
Do you think about even with natural evil, like I said, death? If we didn't have death, at some point, probably a really long time ago, we would have had to stop reproducing.
Or move.
Or move.
Find somewhere else to live.
Going back to the free will, or the possibility that maybe we wouldn't have free will if God knew everything in advance. There's one implication of that is that moral evil wouldn't be, as Leibniz defined it, sinning wouldn't be possible, right? Because you wouldn't be able to willingly go against God.
Yeah, free will is a huge problem, man. That's a huge problem.
Kind of supposed to do. It'd be like yelling at this piece of paper saying, if you don't move, in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to be so upset.
But if you were
go ahead and
telekinetic,
say whatever you want to the paper, it's just gonna follow. Yeah, no. Whoever believes in telekinesis, raise my hand. It's not working. It's just because I don't believe. No, but no. Going on. So going back to the sin thing, right? Going back to the sin idea. You can actually argue with Leibniz that, well, what would sinning be? And that goes back to us not knowing exactly what's going on. You'd have to know what God's will is, and not just according to your religion. You have to know that your religion's right? I mean, you have to know that. You have to know that. You have to kind of be cognizant of, here's what God's will is. God wants me either to do A or not to do A or whatever, one of those. And I'm going to do the opposite. So, God doesn't want me to do this, I'm going to do it, or God would like me to do this, and I'm not going to do it. And you'd have to realize, and you'd have to be thinking, I want to go against God's will. You wouldn't be able to have any other good reason to do it. Right, to say, well, I know I wouldn't steal, but I'm in Katrina right now, I'm going through that, and I'm just going to, how about this? I'm just going to steal water for my family. I'm not going to steal a big screen TV. I'm not going to steal, other stuff that I'm not even going to get anything out of. I want to get water for my family. I'm going to just take one for the team. I might end up dying. So there you go. So I realize if it's a commandment in some religions, wherever, how they put it, don't ever do this. All right, I get that. God, I'm not trying to piss you off. I am trying to save my family. I'm going to go get some water now. So, am I sinning? Again, now you guys can start going, I don't know, maybe you're not. But the idea of sinning is, I'm not just saying, I'd like to do what I'd like to do today. I feel like I have good reasons. And you can throw in, mix in, I'm ignorant, I don't know what I'm doing, but again, I'm not trying to make God mad, and I don't know which version of God is true.
I think I'm going to stick with that one.
Right?
The ignorance, yeah.
So I don't know any of that. So you can't say I'm knowingly, or in that sense, either willingly going against what God is saying, because I don't know which God, which version is right, what's going on, exactly what God wants, and would this be an exception or not? I mean, thou shalt not kill.
Don't all versions of God share these characteristics? All of the monotheistic? No.
Judaism has exceptions for not all knowing. I was taught by religious studies professor down the hall that God asks Adam where he is in the garden. Hey Adam, where are you? It's like, well, if God's intentionally trying to deceive Adam, that's not all good. You start picking on these things, or God doesn't know where Adam is. God has to know where Adam is.
And God remembered Noah, so it applies there at some point in time he's forgotten about him.
I think that applies more to omnipresent and all-knowing, because if he's always there, he would always know he's there.
Then there's that. Right. So,
which is kind of weird.
There are these, and God changes God's mind in the Old Testament, or Hebrew Bible, however you want to put it. Yeah. That barters with, it's not Job. No. It's the other guy.
No.
Lot? I think it was Lot. Yeah. That he barters with him to say, you know what, why don't you just, hey, guess what I'm going to do, Lot? Destroy this whole town. I don't have it now.
Well, even in,
but it's more like, oh, wait, but what if 100 people were innocent? Innocent people were in the town. And he says, well, I guess if there were 100, God says if there were 100 or so, people.
They worked their way all the way down.
And then, they haggle down to 10. And I was like, what about 10? Well, all right. Well, couldn't find them. George.
Well, even if you go between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, a Jew can do things to, if he's not written in the book of the good, you have that short period of time where you can try to change God's mind.
There you go. And so if God already knows God's going to change God's mind, He's God all-powerful to even be able to go against what God would normally do.
In my myth, ritual, and symbol class, we went through different theodicies that different religions espouse. So there's quite a few. And so even within